So, Kevin, how good is your best Jason Murphy impression? Jason does a pretty good Kevin, but I've always been curious to know if you've been back there practicing, trying to get your Jason on.
No, I think I would just have to sound really bitter and hateful towards most things in general.
Have you tried just drinking like a gallon of scotch first and see how that works out? But
I wouldn't want to, endanger myself if I ever had to face the wrath of the Murph.
Yeah.
So kind of play it safe and not push my luck.
Yeah, you got to be on your toes. That's why I drink coffee every time we're together. I'm like, I get inebriated, and people, I just go with whatever. They're like, you like little girls, and I'm just give me a drink or whatever. But welcome everybody to the Rage Select Podcast. I'm Jeff, and I've got Kevin here with me, obviously.
Hello.
And Mr. Murphy is actually off in sunny La La Land this week, so we're just going to be the two of us today, which means less whiskey fueled hate and more old men droning on for hours about the video game industry.
The good old days of gaming.
Yeah. I've been on a kick recently, Kevin, where this is like just more and more often recently. I've just been like, I've hit the tipping point, apparently. Like at 35 is where you start down that path of like, I remember back when I was a kid how things were way better. We had one pixel and we were just like, oh my God, I've never seen graphics like that before. And,
yeah. It's getting old. You do find yourself acting like an old person. Like, I don't know how that makes any sense, but when you were younger, you were like, I hope I don't ever get old and just do that whole like, when I was a kid, but then you get old and you start doing it. You're just like
you get that horrible thing where like when you were in like your teens or your 20s or whatever, you're like, no, it's like the old people are like, back in my day, and you're like, yeah, whatever, grandpa, rotary phones and fucking walking to the butcher. It sounds like bullshit. And then you get old and you're like, you know what? When I was a kid, it was better. God damn it. Jason, I don't know if we've mentioned this on the show before, but like this horrible realization that we had that the current consoles have been out long enough that like you could have a kid that is, or a person, a human being now that is old, like in there, like that is like 20 that got their PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 when they were 12 years old, and that's been the only console they've ever had their entire life.
Yeah,
like it's a horrifying realization that I was just like, oh shit, there could actually be people that have only ever had where this is the first generational shift they've ever had to go through from console to new console. People who didn't even have to play games on an SD television. Like, what madness is this, Kevin?
Yeah, they grew up in a high def world, I guess. They gotta, when they're going back to like what they played when they were kids. I started on a PlayStation 2 or something, and you're just like, your mind starts melting.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really handle children that old.
Oh man, when I was 12, we had this really crappy HD TV. It only did 480p. It was made my eyes bleed and shit. I can't even look at that anymore. It's just garbage.
I was playing this game on the Ouya. It was like one of these interactive storybook type, choose your own adventure type games. I played these things for like a couple of minutes or whatever, and it was like some spy game, and the protagonist in the game got information instead of on a USB stick. He got it on a floppy disk, and he was like, floppy disk, this is ancient technology. I don't know how I'm ever gonna find a way to like load the data off of this. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, really? I guess it's true. And computers don't come with floppy disk drives, but I mean, you could find one. Could maybe not.
Probably
I don't know.
At this point, I think I'd be hard pressed. Like it'd be something you'd have to like order. You'd have to special order.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you could even go down. It used to be you could go down to Best Buy and buy just like a $10 USB floppy disk drive. But
right, yeah, exactly. You just have an old rummage computer laying around somewhere that has one in it. I don't know.
I love the fact that we live in an age of such hyperbole that 3.5 inch drives are ancient. They're like, oh my god, it was dinosaurs and fucking 5.25 inch floppies, like the big black ones. That was back when cavemen ruled the earth and everybody's wandering around with sticks and fire and shit trying to fight off saber-tooth tigers. I mean, but actually it's weird because I feel like we're coming to a point in where the people who are younger in this generation, that the next generation will feel the same way about CDs, about optical media. They'll be like, oh God, you have a bag full of plastic, and that's where you kept all your, Jesus, what the cloud, Grandpa? It's all on the cloud, all right? Just fucking shut up with your, oh, I need physical media. Or yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit. Fuck it. We just buy it online. It's not the problem. Every game costs $1 million, and we're all fine with that because of inflation or whatever. But you know what, Kevin? It's been a few weeks. How have you? What have you been up to? Anything interesting?
Not really. I mean, I've been playing, what is it? Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Did you play that? Did you ever get a chance to play that one?
I played it a little bit. Jason played like a lot of it. He really likes that game.
Pretty funny game. It's
yeah,
got some funny stuff in it. Although the one guy is talking shit through the whole freaking thing. But, otherwise, yeah, it's fun game.
No, I've been playing. We'll have a review for it later this week, but I've been playing Dragon's Crown.
Oh, really? I haven't even heard of that one.
I've been well. You probably have heard of it before. Have you seen there's been all of this outrage about it online, where it's like, it's made by Vanillaware, the guys that made Odin Sphere and Muramasa and or however you say that, or they do like those really high quality sprites. So they have like HD hand painted sprites instead of kind of throwback stuff. So it looks really good.
Right.
But they have this one character in there who's the sorceress, and she is falling out of her top, shall we say? Probably the biggest boobs I've seen in video games in a while, and that's saying something. Yeah. But yeah, the game is fun, but it's also it's like you remember the old D&D arcade games, like Shadow Mystara or Chronicles of Mystara or whatever it was called.
Absolutely.
It's like that, but it's just got a whole bunch more systems layered on top of it, so it's more modern and it's cool. I think a 4-player fighting game. But well,
I got Pikmin 3 sitting here. I haven't played that yet. And I also got Dark. I think you guys did a playthrough of that. I do get a kick out of the name Dark because it's like they just gave up. They're trying to think of things to like come after that, like Dark Sky, Dark Sun. Everything's been used.
Yeah.
Dark Souls. Yeah. They just went with Dark.
Yeah,
just call it Dark.
A bunch of executives sitting around a table with like a copyright list up, and it's like, well, what can we use? It's like, well, according to this, Dark Butt or Dark Corn are the only two things that haven't been registered yet. It's like, what about just Dark? I don't know. You don't think that's too? Nah, it's fine. Just who gives a shit?
The sequel will be like Dark.
Yeah. Darker.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And then in 5 years they can reboot it and it'll be called The Dark, when they relaunch it. It's a reimagining of the classic cult game franchise Dark that, as far as I can tell, nobody actually liked. Yeah, we played a little bit of Pikmin. We played some Pikmin for the show, and I don't know, man. I just don't know if that particular game is really up my alley as far as stuff goes. Like,
yeah, I never played any of the Pikmin.
I played the first one. Like, everybody wouldn't shut up about it, and I played it on the GameCube, and I was just like, I don't understand. It's kind of clumsy controls, and it's just, you've got these little cutesy things that you're running around. I mean,
that's every Nintendo game.
Well, okay. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Nintendo fans. Not really, but yes, I like some Nintendo games.
Yeah.
I think. I can't remember any right now.
I'm not. Wonderful 101. Wonderful 101, Bayonetta 2. Those are the things I'm looking forward to on the Wii U. I'm glad that we have one so that when Bayonetta 2 comes out, I can play that because I really dig Bayonetta.
Bayonetta 2 never came out, huh? That was supposed to be a launch title, wasn't it? I didn't even remember that. That's crazy.
Who could tell? At this point, the launch for that's been the whole problem with the Wii U is just like, there's like 12 games for it. But no, we actually played it at E3, and it seemed, I don't know, it didn't really seem like they were using the pad for very much, but at this point I'm like, good. I just want to plug in the classic controller or whatever it is, the new Wii U Pro controller or whatever, and just use that like it did for Monster Hunter. I don't know. I wonder about Nintendo. I mean, apparently we had some people last week who we ran a story on the website about, the Wii U's flagging sales and stuff like that. And a lot of people accurately pointed out that the 3DS is still doing good, that they still get a lot of traction with the 3DS and 3DS games,
right.
Especially Animal Crossing just came out. And
that's true, yeah.
So
the Japanese like their 3DS.
Yeah.
The Americans, I mean, still, look, Nintendo's going to be the go-to system for little kids. I don't mean to offend anybody, but it just really is. If you're a parent, and you had the choice of choosing something for your kids to play, you're going to get them a Nintendo system, mainly because you just assume that none of that evil pornography and stuff is going to be on that system. I don't know, but the Wii U, I think, is going to have a tougher go. Although, I don't know, maybe in the holiday season when you got the $500 Xbox One and the $400 PlayStation 4, that Nintendo's going to be like, $199.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's just going to be, gangbusters like they did with the Wii U. Because the Wii U was underpowered. And I laughed. I was like, nobody's buying that. That's just the GameCube again. And boy, was I wrong.
Are you talking about the Wii or the Wii U?
Oh, the Wii.
Yeah. Somebody actually wrote us an email. If we want to get to the email part, if this was one of the questions, we'll just go ahead and skip over it. But they made a decent point in saying, or somebody, it may have been that same article that we had, that they had a comment where they said that they felt like one of the biggest problems with the Wii U was the fact that Nintendo probably should have gone with a name besides Wii U, is that they didn't do enough to tell your average chuckle-headed consumer, nobody obviously who listens to this show, obviously, but just like parents who don't know a lot about this, or people who bought a Wii because it was the hot thing or whatever, is that by not branding it as a whole separate new thing, that they probably confused a ton of people who are just like, I hate to, we've done this line of reasoning enough, but I'm going to do it one more time. People who were just like, well, is it just the pad? Do I just go buy a pad and that's Wii U, or what? Like if they'd have named it the Nintendo Next or Nintendo, I don't know, Pikmin Box 3000 or whatever, like at least it would have had some branding. Maybe launch it with a different color scheme than white and black so that it looks different than what's already out there.
Wii's not even a good, like, it doesn't bring a good feeling. It's like everybody was almost tricked when they bought it. They played their Wii bowling and stuff, I guess was okay and that kind of thing. But after that, everybody's just kind of like, Wii blows. I got a 360, I got a PlayStation 3 and stuff. So then they come out and they're like, okay, now we'll just use the same name again, Wii U. To me, I've always wondered with Nintendo, Game Boy was like a huge marketing buzz system, and then they came out with DS, which was terrible, in terms of buzz. And yet here they do the exact opposite. They take and it looks the same. You're right. It's bathroom white, almost the same size, same layout, very boring and drab. I don't know. Who knows what's good? Nintendo in Japan, they're just drinking tea. They don't care.
I felt like when you started that out, I felt like you were reading like a bad English translation from a magazine that was talking about the Wii. It was like, Wii U not bring good feeling is bad all time long. And just like, wait, what? Oh,
you just don't feel good about it. You know what I mean? Like when I walk by it, I don't ever sit there and go, man, I really got to get back to that and play some of those games on that system. It just, it's been my original Wii's been collecting dust for years, man.
Well, it always, the original Wii always had the low software attach rate where it was like people bought. Somebody else pointed out in one of the comments that we had on the website, people were saying that, you buy a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games on. Is that you generally don't go, oh shit, I'm totally psyched about that next Battlefield game, I'm going to buy a Wii U and then play Battlefield on my Wii U. Is that you buy one of the other systems. It seems like the people that are super excited about the Wii console, they're excited about the specifically Nintendo games that are coming out for that Wii console. Even the people who are ardent supporters on our website, they seem to be like, Smash Brothers. I'm so psyched for Smash Brothers, or I'm so psyched for that next Mario, or a new Mario Kart, or a new Zelda, or a new Metroid, or whatever. Speaking of which, when are we going to get a fucking new Metroid already? Come on, Nintendo. Like, you messed up with that last one, Ninja Theory, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I didn't play it. I just want some more Metroid in my life.
I read this thing that, Nintendo basically had said that the reason the Wii U launch list was no good was, it sounded like mostly it was damage control for the 3DS. Mm-hmm. Like they took developers and they put them on 3DS, and then they said something like the earthquake had a lot to do with it.
Well, now
they couldn't get the development all done because of the earthquake.
Now I feel like a dick Damn. Here I am, like, get your shit together, Nintendo. They're like, are you kidding me? Are you looking at what's going on over here? I think we talked about. I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll either be in one of the things or it won't be. But I saw one of the most horrifying things in the world after the tsunami in Japan, that the spiders didn't have anywhere to live on the ground, and so they went up into the trees. And you had these trees that were just like webs over the entire tree with just like zillions of spiders in there. Oh, God, it makes me want to stab myself. I'm just like, well, I don't want to go to Japan anymore, because what happens if I get drunk and like accidentally rest my hand on a tree and suddenly I'm covered in spiders and I'm...
Giant spider comes down and just pulls you into the tree.
I'm just running down the street, crazy white man, like knocking spiders out. Oh, God, spiders everywhere. And somebody's just like, that's what's wrong with Americans right there.
Yeah, bad acid trip in Japan. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, well, I tell you what, I got a few news stories here. Let's go ahead and let's jump in here in a minute, but I want to take just a second. Last week I had we did a couple of site news things, and I kind of want to start, just reminding people about a few things on the way in between the beginning and the news here. So, a couple quick things for people. Number one, you know what, guys? We have had an awesome response from you on this whole Patreon thing that we've been trying out. So if you haven't seen this already, go to our YouTube channel. There's an explanation video there. It basically lets you pledge a certain amount of money per video that we put up to a certain amount. So you can put a cap on it. You see, you want to do $1 per video, and you want to stop at $10 or whatever. It's a great way to support us, and it's kind of a way for us to do kind of an ad hoc subscription system where we're getting it together this month, but next month we should start rolling out rewards for some of the top people that donate to us. Second, I just want to talk briefly with folks about the whole YouTube thing, as we talked about why don't people watch YouTube on our website. And we got a lot of responses. Some of them I can fix, some of them I can't fix. Some of them it's like the player won't go full screen, and somebody else said that was because you're using HTML5, whatever, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, all I'm going to say is that it helps us more if you can watch the videos on the website. I understand it's convenient not to, but it does help us more if you can watch them on our website, because it keeps our site numbers up high enough that we're able to attract better advertisers. So, it's the sort of thing where if it doesn't make any difference to you, we would definitely appreciate it if you could spend a little bit more time on the website. If it's, a horrific pain in the ass or whatever. There was a million different reasons that people had for not doing it. Some guy wrote me in, Kevin, and he was like, I used to watch all your videos on my laptop, but then I developed a back problem from hunching over and watching all the videos on my laptop. So I like to sit on my couch and watch them from there. And I'm like, well, how am I going to tell this guy, hey, fuck you, buddy. Get on that laptop. I don't give a shit about your back. We need the $2 that we're going to get out of hits. Fucking go to burn.
Yeah, and if you are that guy, just load the Rage Select website up on your browser and then just go do all your other stuff. Just leave it up for a while and then come back in a few hours and then, maybe refresh the page or something. And
I like this.
Click on a few other things.
Tell people to pretend. Just pretend like you're on our website. Just some people even said that. They're like, well, I opened it up in this window and then I watched it on YouTube in a separate window. And it's like, all right, guys, that's fine. I don't want to make
it your home page.
That's
just
right.
Have it, you can have multiple home pages these days, so just make it one of your home pages. You can see what's new, and that way it always loads, and then just leave it there for a while.
Let's say put out a poll there. If I get our web guy to put a Google search bar, like the first thing on our web page, will you make Rage Select your home page and then just go there and do all your Google searching off of our web page, so that every time you want to search, you have to load it up? Because I'll do it, man. I'll totally.
But then they'll be immediately leaving, and that might hurt you because they'll be like,
yeah,
you guys only stay for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well,
what the hell?
I thought I'd be slightly transparent, just let people know that the reason that we're talking about all of this stuff is because monetizing gameplay videos on YouTube. Oh my God, it's the worst, Kevin. It's the worst. Like YouTube now, like when I uploaded a Pikmin video and I had it uploaded and it's like, there was a strike. I was like, hey, you got Nintendo content here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like we have our whole process. We're now a YouTube partner, so we're only getting a little bit of the money that we make, but now they handle that stuff. And YouTube actually locked the video. Like I couldn't change the name of the video. I couldn't enter a description to the video. The whole thing was just like completely on lockdown. And I had to re-upload the video. It took me another like 3 hours to re-upload the video just so that I could have a thumbnail and a description and stuff like that. So it's really difficult to monetize these kind of playthroughs on YouTube. So
I always get that match third-party content crap.
Yeah,
it's all done. And you know what's crazy? We've been using on VGM. We've been using Google Live Hangouts. And if you start showing like stuff like you know, like whatever, somebody else's content, it doesn't even have to be like copyrighted. Like I was showing some cosplay girls from YouTube on God knows what, and it actually knows. Like it immediately sends out a message and says
they cut that shit out.
You are displaying this. We're gonna end your conference if you don't immediately stop.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, we're partnered up with another channel, which means that we get like a certain amount of, we don't get all of the money for hits and stuff. And the problem right now is that I can't see how much money we've actually made. So at the end of the month, we'll get to see whether this works or not. But we're trying some new stuff. We've got this Patreon thing. Hopefully sometime soon we're going to have a little bit of merch for people. The last thing, of course, is that some people have been reminding me over and over again that I need to start saying this more often, is that if you'd like to, we would really appreciate it if you could put us whitelist us on your ad blocker. So some people complain we have the Amazon links on our site that you can go and buy the game, or if you just click through and buy whatever, we get a little chunk of that. And some people are like, I can't see that. It's generally because you got an ad blocker turned on. So, I understand about convenience in the internet and all that stuff, but basically we're teetering right on the edge right now. We're either going to be able to make enough for me to be able to do this as a full-time job, or I'm going to get a part-time job, and we're going to have a little bit more. It's probably just going to delay a lot of the things that we do. So
you'll have a few dollars in beer money.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a job.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us working stiffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, that's that. But let's, enough of that. We're done with all that. Let's get to the news. And you know what? It wouldn't be the Rage Select podcast if we didn't have a whole bunch of new Xbox One news to talk about, Kevin. The first one, I don't know if you saw this today, but in Xbox 180 news, you no longer have to have the Kinect plugged in to turn the Xbox One on. They said today that, it seems like they're just. Like, I don't know, I just have this mental image of the CEOs at Microsoft just backpedaling as fast as they possibly can. Because they came out and they had all these things. Like, it's always got to be online. You get your game library and indie publishers. And, you got to have your Kinect plugged in and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, every week, it seems like there's one new thing where they're just like, no, just kidding. Yeah. I mean,
it's like they don't even... Like, couldn't they just get some focus groups and just ask some of these questions before they spent all this time and money, like, putting it together? Like, do you guys think this would be a good idea? And get it like a show of hands? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just brought in, like, a bunch of homeless and, like, old people. They just wheeled some people in from, like, bedridden and stuff. And they're like, okay, I don't know. Do we get a meal after this? Okay, yeah. Well, because it's stupid.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I guess, it's funny because I've said this before. I used to work at Microsoft back in the old days, and the whole like bundling the Xbox One with the Kinect and having the Kinect have to be always turned on and have to have plugged in order to function correctly. This is the kind of shit that you get when a company like Microsoft does all of this internal, like when all this shit is internal. Is it so much backslapping and high-fiving that nobody, and when you ask a question like, well, what if you don't want to have that plugged in? And it's almost like you're talking to them in a foreign language. I could almost imagine what it would be like where they'd be like, well, why? I don't understand. Why would you not want to have it turned in or plugged in? And they're like, well, what if I don't want to have a camera pointed at me? Like, I don't understand. Don't you want all the great functionality of swiping through menus and taking your pictures and signing in with your face and whatever? And be like, well, what if I don't want that? And they're just like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. That doesn't make any sense. Like they had it's a long time ago. I'm sure that I don't know if I'm breaking contracts or something, but this was years, like 10, 15 years ago when I worked at Microsoft. They had a thing where they were talking about, we want to make an app for the new version of Windows that will if you have a webcam plugged in, like to your computer or whatever, in your living room or something like that. Like, we want to have a thing on your system that just turns that shit on whenever anybody's in the room and just records your entire life and then archives it to your hard drive. We think people will really be interested in this because it'll allow them to have a complete video record of everything that they do all day, every day, and they can cut it, they can send it to their relatives, and yada, yada, yada. And like, they were so enthusiastic about this, and it was like nobody ever went to them and was like, what if you don't want to be filmed 24 hours a day? Like, just, it never seemed to come up. It never seemed to cross their minds. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wonder, you give me your expert opinion. What do you think? Are they going to have, I mean, you know, they've already released a story that said that they're not going to have a bundle without the Kinect, now that it doesn't have to be plugged in. But how long do you think that's going to last? I mean, do you think that they could shave $100 off and offer a launch one that was a slightly smaller hard drive and no Kinect for $400, the same as Sony? Do you think that, you know, that they want to try to get that parity with the PlayStation back at launch? That they see doom in their horizon?
No, I mean, I don't believe that the whole thing costs $500 to begin with. I mean, I think they can probably strip $100 off of that. I think they're just being greedy. I mean, Microsoft charges $60 for, you know, Xbox Live for years when, you know, it's free on Sony. Now, of course, Sony's got to jump on the bandwagon and chip in for that crap. But I just think it's greed.
Yeah.
You know, they're just using it for some other purpose. Because, I mean, why would it be that expensive?
Well, you know, it's funny because there's actually a story that I shot down that was talking about how the PlayStation 4, one of their big focuses in building the PlayStation 4 was on the individual unit cost, because they took such a bath on selling the PlayStation 3 at a loss. So you have to wonder, you know, with all the crap that they've I don't even think it's the crap they've shoved into the Xbox One, because it's all x86 off the rack parts, and you know, especially like the memory is DDR3 instead of that GDDR5 or whatever they have in the PlayStation 4. So it's got to be comparable to a $400, you know, it's probably a little bit less than a bulk deal. I have to believe that other $100 has got to be that camera. It's got to be the camera and the Kinect and that separate chunk that they've added in there. Or at least partially.
Yeah, I mean, but right, but they get like $5 or was it $10 now for every game that's sold as a licensing deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's obvious. It's like the Razor Blade and the Razor thing. You know, you get the Razor for cheap, and then you got to pay crazy money for the blades, and that's how consoles work. So I mean, really, they should just give you the damn console for free, and you know, then you pay crazy money for the games, because that's what we're doing. I mean, PC games are $50. Console games are $60. That $10 is going to Microsoft and Sony, and I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, it's they can market it. They make so much money between the internet and the online games and the downloadable content and everything else. The thing's a cash machine. And now they're like connecting it to cable. So they're probably going to get a piece of all your pay-per-views and everything else. You want to watch the UFC live on your Xbox and everything. It's just whatever. It's just printing money for them. So I don't feel bad for them.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm trying to get across here, but you're probably right that they'll strip something out just to be jerks. But all I'm just saying is they could afford not to. That's all.
I just wonder by the time this thing finally gets out on the shelves if it's just going to be if all of their forward-thinking stuff, if they're going to get so skittish about, if they keep pulling shit out of this box, that by the time it gets out there, it's just going to be a PlayStation 4. It's going to be the exact same thing with slightly slower RAM. So.
I'm a little bit disappointed by that, though, because, you know, I know that the third-party publishers and everything, basically, they want to create one game and just put it on all these different platforms. But I don't know. I really kind of wanted this generation to be different. I wanted, like, the consoles to just go in different directions so that when I sat down on an Xbox, I knew I was playing an Xbox. And when I sat down playing a PlayStation 4, I was playing a PlayStation 4. Like, if you had some sort of agnostic game controller and you didn't know which system you were, like, in front of, you know, once the game's going, it's hard to tell the PS3 versus the Xbox 360 in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You know, the games are virtually the same, and I feel like we're going to spend another 7 to 10 years going down that same road here. That's going to just have the exact same feeling. I guess Kinect, but I mean, how many developers are really going to support that?
Well,
because it's such an unreliable technology.
Well, plus, even if it is reliable at this point, I mean, I guess that this is one of those things that you get into where you say that this particular news story, by making the Kinect no longer mandatory, you have now given people a choice, and a large group of people, a large group of your core gamers are just going to be like, fuck it, man, I don't even want that thing plugged in and turned on.
Yeah.
So you can't even guarantee to a developer now that you know, like a developer is going to spend a significant amount of time working to make this feature when it's very possible that the person on the other end of the sales tree, the sales line, the end line consumer could have lost it. It could be in a cabinet, and they don't want to pull it out and hook it. Oh, God, I fucking, all right, go get the Kinect. Oh, geez, I hate this fucking thing. That by not requiring it to be plugged, at least if you have it plugged in and people were putting a towel over it or whatever, at least you could take that towel off and then boom, you're good to go. But by not having to have it plugged in, I doubt that there's going to be that many things. It's going to probably be a lot like the Kinect is today. Where you've got games that are specific to the Kinect, and then you've got games that maybe have a little bit of Kinect integration, but nobody really gives a shit about it.
I mean, your dog could just, even if it was mandatory and connected, your dog could come up and lick the lens on the thing and just ruin it for you, and then you can't play the game, and like the game developer is going to risk your experience based on that, shoddy technology. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think games that are specific for Kinect will do well. Those people that dance in front of their console and everything are going to be happy now because they can dance with their friends. But I think your hardcore gamer is not. I don't think it's going to transcend, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't really think all of those things we've talked about where you could point to things and do all these hand motions while you're playing games and stuff, and like play manhunt again, and then like strangle people with your own hands in the game. I don't think any of that's going to happen. Like, I just think that we're going to keep playing the Call of Duties like we've been playing them, and I think that's kind of a good thing. I don't want to play driving games with my hands just stuck out in the middle of the air, turning a virtual fake wheel and stuff like that. But then again, I mean, Oculus Rift, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe it'll work with that.
That's my money's on that. My money's on the Oculus Rift. Which actually, you know what? I was going to move into another Xbox story, but since you mentioned it, we can just jump right over here. Carmack is joining Oculus VR as a chief technology officer, which I think is great because that dude is like wicked smart. And he's been a real big proponent, or at least it seems like he's been a real big proponent of the whole Oculus Rift thing. And it means he's, according to this article, he's not. It's undetermined whether or not he's actually left id Software to do this full time. Or no, it was updated. He will not be leaving id Software. He's just going to be consulting on this thing, which I think that's a great thing because Carmack, that dude's wicked smart. He seems to have a mat on for this technology, and if anybody can make it work, he can. And he's the kind of guy that the Carmack's, at least in my mind, I don't know, I've never met him, I don't really know anything, but in my mind, Carmack's the kind of guy who's not going to let, like if he has any say in this, he's not going to let something like the Oculus Rift come out half-assed. He's going to want it to be perfect before it comes out.
The one thing that I was thinking about the Oculus Rift, I just want to say this really quick, I don't want to derail the show, but the one thing that I was thinking is that they got that whole vision thing down, but what about the audio? Mm-hmm. Like if some guy's yelling from behind you, or a bird is like going to peck you in the head, like there's no 3D audio there. You know what I mean? Like you're only going to hear what's like right in front of you, basically. It seems like they're missing half the, half the feature.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could maybe. Oh yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I wonder if you could. I wonder if you maybe see a rise of like if you could make yourself like an inexpensive set of like USB headphones that had a little bit of that had more than just the two speakers in it, or had like maybe a couple of other speakers to simulate some stuff, so that you could kind of get a simulated 5.1 experience that you could strap on with that. But that, you know what, I think that's weird. That might end up being a little bit, or I don't know about you, but that might end up being a little bit claustrophobic for me. It's just having that thing strapped to your face and then your ears all covered up. It's like, geez, man.
We should play. Yeah, we should get that game where you're underwater. What was that mask, that hood, or whatever?
Yeah, I can't do that. I could do that. I could do that. Like having, I mean, like I don't know, man. Like have you ever? I don't know what your sleeping habits are, Kevin. But I know people in this world, and like when they go to sleep, they like shove a whole pillow over their head. They're just inside of this pillow sandwich, just trying to go to sleep, and that's just horrifying to me. I'm like, I get under the covers for 5 minutes, and I'm just like, oh God, I need fresh air, man. It's not bad. It's just, strapping something like that to your face that just covers up your entire face. I don't know. That doesn't really work for me.
I mean, my brother, he'll just, the minute I have that on my head, if he was over, he'd just punch me in the head because I can't see him,
Yeah.
That's the biggest. If you've got a brother, it's just going to be game on once you have that thing.
Like you're fucked, man. You're just straight up fucked.
There's so many things your friends are going to do to you when you have that stupid thing on your head. They're just going to be messing with you all the time.
I'll tell you what, though, it was funny when I messed with this at RTX. It was weird because at first I thought that having the thing over my eyes would kind of be one of those, like, I don't want this thing on my face, but the simulated 3D was actually so effective that I forgot about there being anything on my head because I was so engrossed in the world that I was looking at.
That seems to be the general, everything I've seen seems to be, the takeaway.
Yeah.
People don't feel like it's making it worse, like how we do with all these other motion control things where it's not more efficient to go that way. And this, every time people have talked about this, just like you're saying, it seems like it's a good, it's a good experience. Overall.
There's actually another story that I meant to pull up here that I thought would be funny, but I closed up because I had too many stories already. That was actually about this company that's made a $500 treadmill.
I've seen that thing.
The like little bowl
it was like
treadmill.
A Kickstarter.
Yeah, where it's like you got a little thing that goes around your waist, so you can't get far away from it, but you can walk on it, and it'll keep you in the same place. And you could turn 360 degrees, and it'll keep you in the same place. Like, I looked at that, and I was just like, well, that's a mood killer right there. Just like, hey, baby, you want to come in for some drinks? Like, hey, what is that? Yeah, that's where I walk around Skyrim for 12 hours at a time.
This is not really. I mean, it could be cool for exercise, but it's just I can't even see myself buying it, let alone having it in my house. Like, I couldn't go to the register at the girl there and be like, I'm gonna buy this ridiculous treadmill thing. Oh, okay, you're a loser. I just can't do it.
For me, a lot of times it just comes back to the whole. I'm a lazy fuck, apparently. According to people that when we used to have this conversation a long time ago, where it's like, I play games in like 14-hour stints, and I don't want to be standing up in my living room walking around Skyrim for 14 hours at a time.
Well, no, you're right, but I guess it just depends. There's different moods. Because, I mean, if you had to exercise, which most of us who are not in shape have to, it's just standing on a treadmill walking in places. Whew, it's boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you had the ability to put this like Oculus Rift on and walk on this other thing and play a game while you're doing it, at least, there's some entertainment value
now,
there. That's what I'm saying.
I'll tell you what, if I could get 2 Oculus Rifts and 2 treadmills, and I could take my dog for a virtual walk in Skyrim, put that thing on his dog head, and then he thinks he's in Skyrim, and I can look down at him, and he can look back up at me, and I'll have a simulated version of my dog inside of... Now we're talking. That's the future right there.
That would be weird if there was like 2 people like in the same room with that on in general, and then that other person reached out and you saw their virtual avatar like touch you and you felt it because they were actually I don't know. Shit's getting weird now.
Yeah, like if you both of you guys were if you were both sitting there and you had like a Kinect, right?
Yeah,
so you could use the Kinect to like do the bone structure of your arms or whatever. Now, can you imagine what it would be like if you were deep, like if you were playing one of these and you've been in a game and you're in there for like 8 or 9 hours, like an enemy goes to attack you, and then your friend comes over to like grab your shoulder and shake you out of it, and you're just like, oh my god, it's too real, man.
He's doing like the physical punches and stuff to get the guys off, and just gives you a knuckle sandwich right in the freaking jaw or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've spent enough time on the Xbox One. There was a couple stories here. Xbox One is going to require gold for DVR, Skype, and Smart Match, and PlayStation Plus not required to record and stream PS4 games. The Xbox One talking about apparently if you've got an Xbox one gold account in your home, everybody can use it. Or if you have one gold account logged into another person's Xbox One, you can use all of the gold features. So they're trying to get a little bit more lackadaisical with that. I don't know. That's all fine. But we had another one here. It was a rumor that Amazon's going to be is going to be coming into the Android console market with its own controller and a library.
I heard about that. Is that true? Has that been verified at this point?
Let me see. According to Game Informer sources, in a brief report, the site claims people with knowledge of the in-development hardware said that the Amazon console will have its own controller, will use Amazon's own library of Android apps, and will most likely be available by Black Friday. I think that at this point we're looking at a world where it's so goddamn cheap to put together an Android console. Why not? It's just going to be another. It's going to be an Ouya. It's going to be a game stick. It's going to be,
Kindle Fire with a controller, basically, or something.
Which I mean, the thing is that there's a report about this, and I think that it's not really. I don't know. I mean, maybe a place with some legitimate like oomph, like by oomph I mean money, like Amazon, could actually dump some more cash into like developing a more friendly UI and developing a controller that doesn't suck balls like apparently the Ouya controller does. I haven't played it, but a lot of people have told me that it's just...
Yeah, you can pair up your PlayStation 3 controller with the Ouya though. So.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe I don't really see I don't know about you, Kevin, but like do you really see a vector where any of these things were I mean, who else out there except for maybe like I don't know, Apple, if they really put their minds to it, has the oomph to really muscle into the console space at this point? I mean, I guess it's all off the shelf x86 parts, so anybody can build one. But it's just how do you get the market share away from diehards now?
How do you look? All any of these guys got to do is put a graphic system into one of these tablets with a controller that is equal to the PC, so people can actually play Skyrim and World of Warcraft and everything on a handheld game system of some sort, because it just seems like the thing that they're missing.
Yeah.
Like I can play an Android game. I don't want to play an Android game. They're all not very good, and they're making strides to get there, but I don't want to wait 10 years for the Android platform to eventually get to where the consoles are today. Just somebody figure it out. Just put the Nvidia chips or the Radeon chips or whatever into the damn console or tablet and give us a controller and just let us play. I know the battery life's going to suck. Mm-hmm. So what? I can plug it in once in a while. Just I don't know, fix it. Just make it. I don't understand why they can't just do it. Just build it.
I love that, Kevin. You're just you know how difficult this shit is, and you're just like, I don't understand what your problem is. Games, just make it happen. I want to play Skyrim on my fucking iPad, so let me play.
But it's like billions of dollars they're gonna make. I mean, come on, I'd buy one. Sure. Everybody would buy one if you could play the games like that you want to play on there without. I don't know.
Okay, you know what? This is a great segue. Have you, Kevin, purchased an Nvidia Shield?
So I did,
mm-hmm.
and then they tried to charge my credit card like 4 times, and my bank said, well, this is not right. So they denied it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to call my bank, and my bank was like, did you order this thing? And I was like, yeah, it's cool, because it came for whatever reason their processing was out of the country, and so they said, okay, well go ahead and send them an email or call them or whatever and tell them that they can go ahead and try it again. So I sent them an email and I said, yeah, my bank said, blah, 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 that you guys should go ahead and try it again. And they wrote me back and they said, per your request, we have canceled your order. And so I just, I said, you know what? Maybe I'll just wait.
Yeah.
Apparently if they don't have that together, then I'm not so sure this system's going to be out so great. So
I don't know.
Is it out? Is it out finally?
Yeah.
Because I know it got delayed, and then
it's out. They shipped, I think, last week, and there was actually a report that was one of the stories that I pulled up where they have said that that the sales have been good. So, Senior Director of Investor Relations Chris Evenden describes sales as great and says everything that we shipped so far is sold out. We're just starting to ramp up production. So apparently
they sold 5 of them.
Yeah, they shipped out 12. All 12 sold out the first day.
The coolest feature, right, is that feature that allows you to stream your games over to it. But you have to have, a later model NVIDIA graphics card.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I only have Radeons or whatever you want to call Radeon or whatever here. So,
do you have to, or is it just? I thought it was like
yes.
a dongle or something. It has to be an NVIDIA card.
Yes, it has to be like a GX series, I think 600 or whatever the heck it is over that.
Oh.
Otherwise, you can't use it. It's only in beta, too. So there's only a handful of games that it works with. And it has, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could go out and buy one, but then it's just getting retarded.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to spend like $400 or $300 on that Shield thing, and then I got to buy like a $300 graphics card, too, and reconfigure my computer just to play an Android game, or in Skyrim on my handheld.
But see, I guess the other thing that I've always felt about the Nvidia Shield is that this Shield kind of misses the point. It's like, I don't give a shit if I can run Skyrim on my PC and play it in my living room. I got a PlayStation 3 in my living room. I can take my computer to my living room. I don't need to spend $400 to play this shit in my living room. I need to be able to play it on the bus or on the plane or in another state, or it needs to be all in that thing in my hand.
Kids want to play it at school, man.
Right. And I don't know if you can, I know that Sony has, like on the PlayStation 3, they always had that remote play stuff where you could run the hardware and then you could do a stream.
Vita is going to do that, right?
Yeah. And
PlayStation 4.
I think that would be cool if somebody can crack the code on that, because it means that all you need is a cell tower or a Wi-Fi network in order to do the back and forth. The problem that I'm seeing with all that stuff is just, it's going to have to be fairly fast, or else you're going to get some really shitty lag, and you're going to get a whole bunch of artifacting garbage on the screen. It's going to look like crap. So I don't know.
It's on live was barely tolerable, and that had screaming bandwidth, and so I think this is more novelty than anything else. Like, if you're able to run it over the internet, it's some turn-based game or something.
Sure. Yeah,
that'll work, but if you've got something with high-speed combat in it or whatever, forget it. It's just not, come on.
I messed with one at E3. I walked by the Nvidia booth at E3, and I did play with one that had Borderlands 2 on it. And I could say the game looked great. It ran fast. Yeah. It seemed like it was awesome. But once again, you're talking about the first thing you need to do is have a computer that matches these specs, that is able to play Borderlands 2. Then you buy Borderlands 2. Then you buy this thing that costs as much as a fucking PlayStation 4, so that you could walk downstairs in your house and play it from upstairs. And then who even knows what the range is on these things? Like, is it 802.11g? Is it N? Like, is it going to get mired down in like cell phone signals or blah, 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 blah. So this just seems more gimmicky than anything else. And it seems like it's got weird potential, but it's like they haven't figured out exactly what they want to do yet. I don't know.
I don't want to stream the game. I just want the whole game on the system, damn it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Once again, the Cranky Old Man Podcast. I just want it on the thing. Put it on the thing already.
I'm getting old. I don't got much time left. I want some of these things before I die. That's it.
And a flying car, and a lightsaber, and a jetpack. It's too much to ask. Come on.
That's right.
Oh, well, you know what? Speaking of spending way too much money, this is our last story for today, and this is the announcement of what I'm assuming is a joke, but the Saints Row the Fourth or Saints Row 4 $1 million Wad edition, the super dangerous Wad edition, aka the $1 million pack. Have you seen this, Kevin?
No.
Okay, so this is listed a game as the $1 million Saints Row 4 pack. And it comes with Saints Row 4 Commander-in-Chief Edition. And they really messed me up with the third, because I keep wanting to say Saints Row the Fourth. Saints Row 4 Commander-in-Chief Edition, Virgin Galactic Space Flight, full-size replica dubstep gun, hostage rescue experience, plastic surgery, spy training day, personal shopper, capsule wardrobe, 7 nights on the top of the Royal Suite at the Boudia something in Dubai, a week for 2 at the Jefferson Hotel in Washington, D.C., first-class flights to Washington, D.C. and Dubai, Lamborghini, new Toyota Prius, plus a year of insurance and a year's supercar membership. It is almost entirely like this is a joke. It must be a joke.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because I know it costs more than $1 million to get on that fucking Virgin spaceflight thing. So, unless they're selling the shit at a loss. But I almost feel like I only mention this because someday there's going to be the second part of this story where some rich asshole tries to buy this and it isn't actually available, and then they try to sue Volition or Deep Silver, whoever, saying like, "Hey, you guys put this out. I want my spy training and my plastic surgery. You said I've added this all up, and it's like a $4 million value, and I've got $1 million, so I totally want this."
Well, that's what happened with that Pepsi thing, that one promotion where the
Mountain Dew one.
Or you collect the points, and then some kid tried to buy a Harrier aircraft because they had it in the commercial, and he went to court. They went to court over it. He lost.
Yep.
But he went all the way to court until the judge was like, nobody in their right mind would think that. The judge was sensible for once.
I actually when I was in my what's it called, late teens, early 20s, when they kept doing that Mountain Dew thing every year, I lived with a bunch of it's like 3 or 4 roommates, and 3 of them were these guys that were just like they wanted all that shit. So we were a bunch of late teens, early 20s fuck ups, and they drank nothing but Mountain Dew, just all Mountain Dew all day, every day. And they mostly get
my kind of people.
Yeah, they would get the bottles. But the thing is that we were dirty, lazy, fucking terrible teenagers. And I remember that they wouldn't throw the bottles away because they were keeping the caps. And rather than just throw the caps in a box or something, they had the bottles that all had the caps on them. So we had cabinets in our kitchen that were just full of empty Mountain Dew bottles, just hundreds of empty Mountain Dew bottles. At the end of their thing, they sat down one day and they got all the caps together and they figured out everything they wanted and they sent off for all of the stuff. Bunch of different stuff because they had collected a lot of them, never got shit. And
oh, really?
Yeah, they never got it back. And I remember saying to them a few years later, I was like, "Hey, whatever happened to that Mountain Dew stuff?" They're like, "Yeah, we never got any of that stuff." And I'm like, "Well, did you call anybody?" And they're like, "It seemed like too much work." And it's like, really? You must have drank $30,000 worth of fucking Mountain Dew, and they never sent you your dirt bike or whatever you were supposed to get. Seriously? Come on,
wow.
Man. That's a raw deal. Oh, man. All right. Well, I tell you what. I'm going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we've got a bunch of questions that we are going to answer. So stay tuned, and we'll be back momentarily. Now, Kev, before we get into the emails here, I want to get your input on something. I don't know if you've been seeing this come around last week, but there's been kind of this weird burgeoning argument online about how somebody last week wrote an article talking about how movie theaters should change. Did you read this? About how people want to have a second screen experience social with their friends, and so movie theaters should be a place. You should have some movie theaters where you have the lights are halfway on, and people are allowed to talk, and you have a plug for your iPad, and you can have your phone out, and you do whatever the fuck you want to, because I want to be able to work on my laptop and watch a movie at the same time. Or this is the year 2013. We should all have our iPads out and be able to do our whole second screen experience, blah, blah, blah. And I think that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I don't even. It's awful. Maybe if you were with one of those. They have those porn booths where you're in there by yourself and you pay $0.25 and some girl dances they show on
peep
TV.
Show?
Yeah, like a peep show, right. They made a movie theater like that. You had your own little room and stuff that I don't care what the fuck you do, but I don't want to see your stupid iPad and everything in the theater.
I don't know. Once again, it's
horrible.
It comes back somebody. I mean, there's been a lot of blowback against it, obviously. It was Tim League, the owner of the Alamo here, has been real vocal about it, but I was just outside in the break, and I read an article on Facebook where somebody was like, this has come up, but people are really is talking about how people who this guy considers to be liberal and kind of free thinking, all this kind of stuff, they get so conservatively dogmatic about I don't want my movie theater experience changed. I want to go. I want to sit in the dark. I want to eat hot dogs and a popcorn, and but I don't know. I mean, at this point I don't like going to the movie theater so much anyway that it's kind of a moot point for me. I'm just $13. I'll wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and watch it at my house and pause it when I have to go to the bathroom, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, for specific movies, I like to see horror movies and stuff in the theater. But in general, I don't want to just see some comedy or something in the theater because it is really expensive, and there's just only certain movies that I want that group experience. I like it when people are screaming in the audience with me, or because I scream louder than everyone. No, and but it's certain movies I think are a spectacle, and I can dig watching them on the big screen. Even though my TV is 3 feet from my face and giant. I don't know. It's just not the same thing.
Just sit closer to your TV, Kevin. You just sit close to your TV and turn the speakers up louder, obviously.
Yeah, I just need that. But, I mean, I go to the drive-in a lot, too. I don't know if you guys still have drive-ins or you are or whatever, but we have one here, and that's kind of a good experience because you could just kind of in your car, and you don't have to deal with anybody.
I've never done it before. I'd really like to. Yeah, though we don't really have them out here, or at least near as I can tell. But I guess what's interesting is I mean, they're obviously showing modern movies or whatever at your drive-through. Have they improved like the little speaker that you put in your car with your?
Oh, it all goes over. Excuse me. It all goes over the radio. So you tune in your FM radio to the channel, and you can just listen to all through there. So it all depends on how good your car stereo system.
Do they check you for like booze before you go out, or can you just bring like a cooler full of beer with you and just sit back there?
You can, but it obviously it depends on the rules of the place. Like the particular one that I go to out here, only they don't really want you to bring your own food and drink in because that's how they make their money.
Right. Okay.
So that's how they pitch it. But they let you see two new movies for like $9.
What?
Yeah. So it's a good deal, but you got to watch it back to back. So it's like,
hey,
5 hours of movies.
I was just thinking, man, if only you could pay. You could pay like $18 and they let you bring your own food or drink it or whatever, and you could like... You
can, right. You can totally do that. You
really?
Can pay. It's not even another $9. It's like $6 or $5 or something. You can
can you bring a hibachi? Can you bring in your grill? You just fucking grill there on, just hold your hand out the window and flip the steaks over and then throw them on?
I don't think you can, but you might be able to. I don't know.
2 movies, that's enough time to grill up, a bunch of stuff. You can let the coals heat up and then spread them out and get somebody on the other side in the passenger seat making potato salad or something,
Yeah, you could set up a tent and just camp out there and watch movies. Just wait till the other one starts on the other theater.
Oh, what if you had an RV and you pulled it up sideways and you like pull the little shade out from it or whatever? You just pull out some lawn chairs. Oh, that sounds awesome. I want to do that. Shit, man. I wish I was ever in Ohio when it's not like 12 feet of snow on the ground and go to the drive-in. Yeah. All right. Well, I tell you what. Let's get to the emails here. I've got a few this week. First one is from Josh, and Josh says, hey, so you guys recently played Deadpool, and even though you didn't do a review, you seem to really enjoy it. Actually, we've done a review at this point, but based on this, I went ahead and checked IGN and GameSpot to get their opinion. I was surprised to find out that they thought that it sucked. They felt the gameplay was repetitive and the humor was childish and sexist. So my question is, do you guys ever find yourself in a situation where your views on a game are diametrically opposed to what most game critics think? Keep up the good work, Josh. So I don't know, Kevin. You've been doing. You don't really do that many reviews now, right? He's mostly just kind of playing stuff, or
yeah. I mean, I just do the playthrough thing, where I show people how not to play video games, and then we just talk topical. So we're not really doing too many game reviews. I
don't know. See, back in the old days when we were reviewing stuff, and even now, I always try to avoid looking at, I was looking at like gaming news and stuff, but I always try to avoid looking at like scores or reviews or whatever for whatever game I'm playing until I'm done playing it. And that's actually brought me into a few situations where I come through a game and I was like, seems like it was just kind of meh. And then I give a review of it, and everybody's like, what is your problem? You're fucking crazy. Like, look at these scores. And I'm like, well, those are other people's, it's, in the words of the Big Lebowski, that's just like your opinion, man. Sometimes one of the great things about or one of the things I think that people come to places for reviews, and one of the places that I think that at least I always try to separate us from the IGN and GameSpot herd. Not to I don't want to come out like I'm bashing them or whatever, but like if we play a game that you don't really like, because of your own personality or your expectations or whatever, as long as you explain why you didn't like it, I think it's perfectly valid. Like, because then you get into the situation where if not, what are you going to do? Are you going to look at the Metacritic score before you review a game and be like, well, everybody else gave it 3 out of 5. I guess I should give it a 3 out of 5 as well. Because what if you thought that game was super awesome and you found something in there that other reviewers didn't, and you feel like giving it a higher score or a lower score? A lot of people liked Skyward Sword. I didn't really care as much for Skyward Sword as I did for, some other games. Or, there have been things out there. I mean, like Deadpool in the review, I almost feel like score in video games. I don't know. What do you think about this, Kevin? I feel like scores in video games are kind of bullshit.
They are. But the thing is that these days everybody wants instant information. If you don't provide some sort of aggregate information, people just won't even bother. They won't check your thing. You know what I mean? They're all going to Rotten Tomatoes. They're all going to Metacritic. They only want to see your 3-line quote, you know, where it just, that's taken completely out of context. Where you're like, Skyrim, that's the worst game ever. 5 out of 5.
More like Sky Grim, man. Right, guys? Yeah. I mean, for me, I almost feel like we should start introducing a rating system that is less like... That is less, I give it 6.8 out of 11.7 or something like that. And just be like, I liked it or I didn't like it. And if you want specifics about why I did or didn't like it, listen to it. Listen to a review or read a review or do whatever. Because I've read articles, I've read reviews for movies or for video games or whatever. I've read stuff where I read another critic's review and just go, what the fuck are you talking about? This was awful. And you're just like, I mean, there was that whole controversy about the one journalist who gave Aliens Colonial Marines a high score. And it seemed like you read his article and it was weird because you felt like it was just not... it didn't have it seemed like it didn't even have much of a correlation to reality in general. You're just like, oh, the AI, I really liked it. It seemed good. And you're like, what fucking game are you playing here, bro? It was terrible. It was fucking terrible. So I don't know. It's one of those things where, I mean, I guess the answer to this question is I generally find myself diametrically opposed to critics, listeners, human beings. I mean, I find myself opposed to a lot of people's opinions about a lot of different things, but the thing to remember in this particular day and age is that just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that, you're wrong. When it comes to opinion is opinion, and I don't feel like, right or wrong. Sometimes you can point out specific things where you're like, if a game is buggy and a reviewer doesn't take that into account when they review something, okay, maybe you disagree with the way that they review stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where you're like, it's opinion,
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right, but the thing is it's how things also come across. If you read stuff online, it can be terrible to try to get through without ratings and scores and stuff because a lot of people don't write very well. They want to give their opinion, they don't put it together very well. And then there's the same with audio. You know what I mean? There's people that do game reviews and they just ramble for half an hour about crap you don't care about, and you're just trying to find out if the game's good. I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Opinion it's true, and it's kind of like wine tasting and stuff. What tastes good to you is not necessarily going to taste good to somebody else, and you got to make. But at the same time, games are expensive, and you kind of got to. I always just see it I like, for instance, I know your personality. I know what kind of games you like, and I know what, you would probably favor versus something that you might be overly nitpicking something else, etc. And you give certain things a fair shake and all this sort of stuff. So it's like you almost develop a relationship with the reviewer that you're listening to, so that if a game comes on and you start to review it, I can then take away from your personality and the way you're describing it that I like it or not.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
I might like it because I know you and I listen to you long enough that there's that whole rapport there where blindly following any old review that you find on the internet is just chaos because you don't know if that guy is, maybe he's just like one of the Manson family writing from inside prison reviewing video games. You don't know. And so I think
Chuck Manson, man, he plays a lot of PlayStation 3. He's a real big Wii U fan as well. I don't read his blog.
I just think it's important to once you find somebody that you trust and, you don't have to agree with them all the time, but you just have to, follow them long enough. I think that's what really matters.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, when you're talking about that, you're also, when I first started doing reviews for video games, it was like I was very much doing them from my guts. And I've tried to make anytime there was a video game review that caused a big flap or that was a big controversy or people didn't like what I was saying or whatever, I try to go back and honestly look at the way that I was analyzing this stuff. But then you also come down to this point where you're like, if you can have a person who just reviews video games like a robot. who's like, I mean, I see this stuff on Metacritic all the time where people are like, I started at 10, and then it's like, well, the graphics were good, +2, but the story was terrible, -4.
I hate those.
And you're just
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't want people just, if you, because, and this is another thing, I've talked about this a few times before, anybody in the world who has a few brain cells to rub together can make a convincing argument for or against anything. Like, I can write a review. I can write 1,000 words tomorrow about how Dark Souls is the best game I've ever played. I can also write 1,000 words about how Dark Souls is completely shitty bullshit. And for me, it's just, it's an intellectual exercise. You can make anything fit into anything. So the only way that I know to get my point across is to just try to be as honest as I can about, did you have a good time? Did you not have a good time? Did you have a kind of good time? If you did have a kind of good time, what was it that was good and what was it that was bad? And that's one of those things. Jason and I talked about this on a previous show about how, a lot of people people email me all the time about how, like, God, you're so negative, or you're so critical, or you're so blah, blah, blah about this stuff. And we've said before about how, a game review that just does nothing but licks the game's balls does nothing for you. It could be a good game, but you deserve to know the problems. Actually, you were on that show as well, weren't you? It's like I got ranting.
But it's true. You're right. I mean, people... The reason you're nitpicking is so people know what they're purchasing.
Right.
It's not just about, looking at it like it's a piece of art and trying to pick out all of the goodness in it and stuff. People are $60 to some people. They might wipe their ass with it and be like, I don't care, but other people, that's like, that might be their only game purchase for like months or even a year or something, depending on how they, if they're a kid and they can only convince their parents to buy them one game that year.
Right.
So, you got to give them like everything that's wrong with it. Otherwise, they could have a bad experience.
No, it's very true. All right, well, let's move on to our next email, and this is from That Siberian Guy, and this is an oldie but a goodie. Greetings, Jeff and Jason, but I'm going to say greetings, Jeff and Kevin. I would like to thank you that you took the time to read my previous email. Thanks a bunch. My current question is a bit controversial. This is about game piracy. The general public sees piracy as public enemy number one, but pirating can also come with benefits. For example, studios like Denton Games, creators of Hotline Miami, and Impromptu Games, creators of Influx, used Pirate Bay as a marketing campaign, which was quite a success. Plus, it helps the third world countries to enjoy games where they are either too expensive or not available at all. My question as follows. What are you guys' opinion on media piracy in general, and have you ever torrented something yourselves? Thank you for your time. Stay classiest podcast website on the internet. That Siberian Guy. I'm going to respectfully not answer the question about have I ever torrented anything myself.
I have. I don't care, but I don't do it like because it's just a pain in the ass. I mean, you end up finding some copy of it and you burn it out or something, or watch it and it turns out to be like Sesame Street reruns or something because somebody's playing a joke.
Right.
There's a lot of just, you got to tolerate a lot of crap in order to get it, and most of the time I'll just spend the money and buy like the movie or something. And video games I used to do it because I was broke, I'll admit it. I mean, I wanted to play all the games and there was no way to play the games, and I personally don't think you should be rich in order to play all the games.
Yeah. So,
I actively pirated software, but now that I'm older and I have money and a job, I'll go buy what I want. But when I'm poor and stuff.
I tell you, for me, I mean, like a lot of it just comes down to price. And actually, it's funny how, when Jason and I record these videos, it's like sometimes we'll have GameFly will send a game, but they'll ship it from a place that's like they've had some weird shipping things recently where I don't get games in 24 hours. I have to wait a few days to get them. Dragon's Crown is one that we just came out with the video today or yesterday when you guys hear this. But it's funny because it became clear to me that Dragon's Crown wasn't going to come to me. And what I did was I went and looked for where can I rent a game. And it's kind of dismal now. Like if you want to try something out, I got Dragon's Crown from GameFly eventually. I liked it. I ended up buying it because they give you a discount price and it's, it's good, whatever. But if you just want to try Aliens Colonial Marines before you buy it or whatever, demos are becoming more and more scarce these days. You don't see demos for jack shit anymore.
Right.
And you got your Redbox, but Redbox they've really cut back on what they're stocking, especially when it comes to stuff that's not big AAA, titles, stuff like Dragon's Crown or stuff like Dark. Say you want to see if Dark was a piece of shit before you bought it. At this point, like, you've got GameFly, and that's pretty much it. What else are you going to do? Are you going to buy it and then return it? Well, most places won't let you return games, and so I think that there's a case to be made with torrenting about if you get a game and you see if you like it, and if you do like it, then you buy it. On the other hand, there's so many people out there that have the all the different things that they'll say about why I torrent the games. And I mean, this guy does we had emails a long time ago from people like in Africa or in the, other countries where they just don't have a way to get games. Like, they just cannot purchase them, so they take them. And I'm like, okay, well, if they're not willing to give you an outlet to actually buy them, whatever. But, if they are, you just got to remember that, if everybody steals games, then there aren't any more games eventually. I mean, it's kind of something that happened with the PSP. We brought that up in the past, how game developers were like, why should I bother making games for this when they're so easy to steal and put on? It's so easy to unlock and jailbreak the system that making games for it just isn't very attractive. So
yeah,
I think that some people, honestly, and if this is you, that Siberian guy, I don't mean any offense or anything, but there's some people out there who just use torrenting as an excuse to not buy games, and they have all of the stuff, all of the arguments in the world have been built up. Well, I wasn't going to buy it anyway. Well, if it's good, then I'll buy it, but I never got around to buying it. Well, I wanted to try it out before I buy it, just like what I was just saying. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to take a good hard look at yourself and just go, I don't want to pay $50 for this. I don't feel like I should have to pay $50, so I'm just going to take it. And when that happens, it's not beat around the bush. You're just taking it. If the developer isn't on board with that, like these other people are, then you're just taking a game that people worked on. And I mean, after seeing all the different studios that have gone under these days, I'm a lot more soft on that stuff than I used to be. Like, there just isn't as much money sloshing around in the game industry as there used to be, and you see, studios going out of business all the time because their game didn't sell very well. On the other hand, there are plenty of studios out there that expect a ridiculous amount of sales, or that sell in quantities that are fucking just stupid. And I'm going to say right now, before anybody tries to jump in here and get on me about this, that there are plenty of publishers and there are plenty of developers out there that don't have any problem fucking the consumer at all. Project $10, or we're shipping a full price game that is garbage and we know it's garbage, or we're selling a season pass for just terrible shit, or any of these things are bad things. But I honestly feel like, once again, a lot of this stuff also kind of comes down to how rabid you are to get your hands on a game. Most of the time these days, like, if I wasn't doing this for a living, or ostensible living at this point, whether I could still do this for a living is kind of up in the air right now. But,
right, sure.
But if I wasn't doing this for a living, like, there is a wonderful argument to be made, and I actually have a few friends who do this, but there is a beautiful, beautiful argument to be made to say, if you could just control your shit a little bit, and you can basically buffer your games by a year. So this year in 2013, you're going to play all the best games that came out in 2012. And next year, when you get the first price drop on the new consoles, you're going to buy them at the end of the year, and you're going to play all of the stuff from 2013 in 2014. You can play games for cheap, between Amazon sales and Steam sales and stuff like PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus this month has Hitman Absolution, like collector's edition, is just free. It's one $50 game purchase, and you get like 12. Saints Row the Third was free. Fucking Vanquish was free. They had all these. One game seems like they swap it out. It's just completely free on that service. So if you could just wait, you don't have to steal this stuff. You can get it for a pittance, because after a year has come out, it's like, just nobody gives a shit anymore. They'll sell Red Dead for $10 or whatever, and well, not Red Dead. That's still expensive, but I don't know. I mean,
no, you're right.
If it's cost, there's plenty of ways to get a cheap game. You just have to you have to trade in some of your immediate instant gratification and not being part of like, oh shit, BioShock is out and I want to talk with everybody about how awesome I think BioShock is. So
yeah, I also think that a little bit of the problem though is some of the price fixing that goes on in terms of console games, because every game gets released for $60, but not every game is worth $60. And
True.
I don't think that it's actually the publisher's fault. I think Microsoft probably just says you have to sell the game for $60, and then they have that the lower tier prices like for $30 or whatever. But if they actually open that up to be more, I don't know, competitive, so somebody could sell the game for $10 or whatever if they wanted to. I mean, maybe they're afraid you're going to end up like the iPhone store and you're going to drive all the prices down to $1 each or something. But I think as consumers, we would be better off in a lot of cases. Because, I mean, I don't mind paying $60 for a AAA game, but there's a lot of games that are $60 just aren't very good.
Yeah,
so.
No, that is entirely true. That is entirely true. And I mean, I don't know. I think that the other thing, just, if you're concerned about torrenting games, like if you're doing that, you probably have a pretty decent PC. And if you have a decent PC and you're looking for games that have come out that are out on the PC, if you keep an eye on Steam and Amazon, and there's plenty of websites out there that are aggregates for stuff that goes on sale. Amazon, they've been doing this thing where like 3 months after a game is out, they'll put it on sale for $20 for like 24 hours or whatever. That's fantastic deals. You just have to be willing when that stuff comes up to hit it, to get on it.
Right.
Check your Steam every weekend and see what's on sale and go like, oh yeah, I was interested in that, and then spend $10 on it. That's how I have the Steam library that I have, is because shit goes on sale for $10 and I'm like, oh yeah, I may want to play whatever someday, so I'm just going to pick that up. All right, well, let's go on to our next question. This is from Jose. Jose says, hey guys, with the new GTA game announced and a new Saints Row game about to come out, brings me back to when we were bombarded with GTA clones. One of my favorite was Crackdown, which was incredibly ridiculous but incredibly fun. Got the second game not too long ago, and I'm hoping for a third someday. My question is, were there any games that where you enjoyed the knockoff version more than the original? And it's from Jose.
What does he mean by knockoff version?
He means the imitators. Like something, I don't actually, you know what? Now that I read this again, I don't entirely know what he's talking about. I guess he's asking if there were games where you enjoyed the second tier knockoff version more than the AAA original version. Which I guess Saints Row probably falls in there, as that started off as a total GTA knockoff, and now it's a freaking AAA title. But
yeah, I don't.
It's a good question.
I don't know what you're talking about. Usually the writer writes in with some kind of crazy example. You ever get those where they're just like, I want to know what you guys think about this, and then like they write like a 3-paragraph thing about what they feel it should be like. Yeah.
How about let's see. Let's do Super Gianna Sisters is so much better than Mario that it's fucking insane. It's fucking crazy pants. I don't know.
Do you really believe that, or are you just kidding?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't believe that.
Oh.
There's a new one out. I don't know. I've got so much Mario fatigue now that I haven't tried that new one. Maybe that new one's really awesome, and I just don't know. But I don't know. I mean, Saints Row is kind of the one that really stands out to me, because most of the time when they do cheap knockoff, like, Red Dead came out and then Gun was out after Red Dead.
I just don't think that was a purposeful knockoff. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to have something that's just, I don't know, like Skyrim or Resident Evil, or I can't think of anything. I don't know.
What would be a good Resident Evil knockoff? There was a
Silent Hill.
No, but it's funny because there used to be a lot of that stuff. If you think about in the early 2000s or in the PlayStation 2 era, you would get these weird games that would come out that were obviously just a knockoff of stuff that's out there. But I tell you what, instead of answering this guy's question, I'm going to tell you what we need, Kevin. So we need somebody like Asylum, but we need them for video games. We need somebody that, like, when Grand Theft Auto 5 is getting ready to come out, they put out a game that's called like Grand Theft Vehicle. So it's Grand Theft America Vehicle. So it's GTA 5, and it's got 3 protagonists that kind of look like it. This obviously they just threw this shit together like a weekend with Game Salad or something and put it out there. And
they used to have those on the PC. I don't know if they still do, like the Value Soft and things like that. They would totally make all those rip-off titles like that.
It's pretty bad on the phone too, right? Like developers that'll go in and just steal assets and stuff from other games. I don't know. In general, though, I find that I guess the answer to his question for me, and it sounds like for you too, is like, I don't really enjoy many of those games more than I enjoyed the original. Like Crackdown was fun, but I'd rather play Grand Theft Auto, to be honest with you. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next question. Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. If this is from Camille or Camel, I'm going to say Camille, Camil. How would you say that, Kevin?
Just say Camel because it's funny.
Camel. From the Camel. Hello, I am a silent devotee of the classiest podcast on the internet, and now making first contact. Well, welcome. I have talked to a game developer about the new generation of consoles, and he didn't seem so excited by the concept. His main argument is that games won't be changing that much from the past generation, except they'll only look kind of better. My question is, since AAA titles cost so much money to make nowadays, isn't putting out another generation of consoles pushing game developers into expenses that they can't really afford, or that they can't afford regarding mostly looks? Because if the games cost the same amount in the next generation, they'll be truly fucked, won't they? Anyway, greetings from Montreal, from Camel.
I'm going to say no, because most of the games run on third-party game engines that do all of the heavy lifting. I mean, these days, not a lot of gaming development is going on game engines. Some people are doing it, but most people are not. And so, the assets, I mean, you got to get a higher resolution texture or something, I guess. But the TV has been sort of a fixed resolution for a while. You don't necessarily have to produce a 1080p game. You can still do a 720p game. I doubt anybody is really going to care and point it out. So, I mean, I don't know. I think most of that extra power might just go into, just some added effects, things like that.
It's funny because we talked about this on a previous show at some point, but I actually was listening to a podcast where they were talking to some developers that were talking about how with the current generation of consoles, when you get up into the upper echelons of AAA coding, that they generally have to choose between a bunch of different things. Like, do you want a lot of particle effects, or do you want like a better physics system, or do you want this? And it's like they have to pick a few of these things they want to concentrate on, and that's what they're able to squeeze out of the power. And then they have to kind of cheese the rest because the processing power isn't there. So last show we were actually talking about how what you might actually end up seeing here is games that are able to take advantage of a lot of different things at the same time, basically making it so that and I don't know if this is how it's going to work out there, so I'm talking directly from my rectum. But it's possible that we, the gamers, don't even really understand what we're missing. And that if we're able to play a game that both looks good and has good particle effects and has great AI and has good physics and has good crowd dynamics and has good, this and has the complexity of built-in online and is able to run these other processes in the background or whatever, that we're so used to picking between a few of those and having the rest be simulated that it may be the sort of thing that when we start seeing these games come out, that when people start really hitting their stride, they're really going to be wowing us with what you can do all at the same time with these engines. And the other thing that we talked about is that it's possible that with these new consoles having more power, that developers might actually be able to do more with less because they could be sloppier in their development, that they don't have to worry about optimizing every piece of that hardware just to get a good frame rate. Is that if the hardware inside is powerful enough to take existing games and make them all run at 60 frames per second, and they don't have to have months of optimization or customized code to run their vehicle physics or anything like that, that they may be able to get away with using more off-the-shelf development tools and having the extra hardware that's in those consoles make up the rest of the optimization, so they don't have to spend as much time working on specifically engine optimization.
It's that whole time the triangle thing that Sony was talking about, where it was really long on the PlayStation 3 to start development. It took like 6 months to start getting things going, and now it should be less than 3 and that sort of stuff. So these new consoles have probably streamlined a lot of these processes, made things a lot easier in a lot of cases. And look, a lot of these AAA titles spend a lot of money on stupid things like professional actors and having these video segments go on and soundtracks that are all, glorious and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you want some of it, but, there's just... Are they making a movie or are they making a game? Because they could save a lot of money if they'd stop trying to make a movie.
Yeah. The other thing is, this also reminds me of something where we played last Friday here on the show. We played Papers, Please. Have you seen that before, Kevin?
I've heard of it, no, but I know nothing else about it.
And somebody made a comment on our YouTube thing saying, like, they found that it was funny how we were so engrossed in this game about stamping documents at a fictional Eastern Bloc checkpoint or whatever. And so part of what this guy is, part of the answer to this guy's question could be that, like, since you're having these new boxes that are coming out that are all x86 based architecture, so we're getting this parity as far as programming goes across the board, that you may be making it a lot easier, especially with the fact that if you're using x86 architecture, you can use off the shelf Unreal or Quake or whatever.
Right.
That you may be seeing developers who have more free time to develop more creative systems instead of, that if your development costs on a standard, if you could program it on a PC and then the time to port that, whatever you make on the PC over to the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One is small because they all have a similar architecture, you could get into situations where people have much more freedom to dick around and make interesting games with smaller teams than they have to, because in the last generation, you spent so much time building, like we said, your engines and assets and stuff like this.
Exactly.
If you just whomp out something with some, DIY fucking object-oriented programming language, and you're able as a smaller developer, especially given the fact that both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 have self-publishing models now, like we could be seeing a lot more of that stuff happen, and we could even be seeing, like, I don't know about you, Kevin, but I'm starting to think that the big AAA studios are going to start doing more indie-like stuff. If it really starts to catch on and make a lot of money, we're already seeing it a little bit, but that you're going to see more of those indie studio or more of the big game studios reaching out to indie developers and going, "Oh my God, are you doing something interesting? Well, fucking get over here. We'll publish you. We'll give you money for this or whatever."
Yeah, I mean, I think they should. I mean, I think that, they can pad their bottom line a little bit. You make a small game, or, in terms of dollars, and if it's a success, you make a decent amount of money, and if it doesn't, well, then you didn't really lose anything. They gamble so hard on trying to make the next Call of Duty, and there's only a handful of games every year that really take off, and then the rest of it is just kind of circling the drain because they spent way too much money developing a lot of these titles. And we all want really good games, but I mean, personally, I just want to play something that's fun.
Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to, and as long as they get the fun part down, I could care less if it's got all the, Bruce Willis in the opening credits or something.
Right. All right, our next question comes in from Jose, and Jose says, salutations, classy dojo masters, and thank you for your hilarious Nazi fetish stories, Jeff. Oh, yeah, that was all me. Wasn't Jason Murphy's Scarlett Johansson bait and switch at all. My question for you two is, do you enjoy prequels where a lot of the focal time is the uprising of the villain? Prequels like Peace Walker for Big Boss, Crisis Core for Sephiroth, Ocarina of Time for Ganon, Resident Evil 0/Umbrella Chronicles for Wesker. Do you find them harder to enjoy because you know the biggest spoiler surrounding it? That's from Jose. I don't know. Let me think. Do you, Kevin? Do you really truck a lot with? I mean, you don't really seem to get super fixated on individual franchises like that, though, right? Where you're really excited for every game that comes out in a specific franchise or whatever.
No, I mean, to be fair, if they ever came out with another Half-Life, I probably would be pretty excited about that. I was pretty excited about the sequel to Deus Ex, but I mean, you wait 10 years for a sequel. I don't know. I mean, it's just there are some games like Metal Gear that you get a pretty reliable follow-up at least every couple of years, but every game I seem to like freaking takes a decade before there's a sequel, so I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that some of it, the answer to his question for me is that some of it kind of depends on how they frame. I'm like, I generally have a little bit of fatigue when it comes to prequels in any fiction, TV shows, movies, whatever, where a person will make a movie or a game or a TV show or whatever that has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it's not set up for a sequel. There's not a whole bunch of stuff out there for people to come in and do later or whatever, and so they want to make another one, and they're just like, oh, now it's a prequel. I'm looking at you, Arkham Origins, that, you know... So I generally find it as a framing device, it's kind of lazy because you already know where your story is going to end, or at least you know kind of partially how your story is going to end. But it depends kind of for me on what on where you start that character. Like Peace Walker was weird because Peace Walker is actually both a sequel and a prequel, because Metal Gear Solid 3 was a prequel to Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear, and then Peace Walker was a sequel to that. So you already had your prequel setting up this character, and then you had more of this development. The other ones, I mean, I'm not as into any of those other franchises as much. But I think that if you have a story where you have that character start out dramatically differently than the way that they are in the games that they're prequeling. Is that a word? Prequeling?
Sounds good.
Yeah. That you can have an interesting story, but this guy is, he is right that it does take a little bit of the oomph out of it when you're like, well, okay, Kevin, like here, I'll show you the problem with the prequel storyline is. Batman Arkham Origins is coming out, and it takes place before Arkham's Asylum or Arkham City. Batman probably not going to die in Arkham Origins. You could be pretty... I'm sorry, spoilers, you guys. I'm sorry, I should have put the spoiler tag out there, but yeah, I don't really generally have to worry. Kevin, do you think Batman's going to get out of the situation that he's in this Arkham Origins game, or do you think he's going to get killed?
They could be fancy, though, and they could have a sequel to the prequel. And then he could die, and then you got to wonder, how does he come back to life before?
Very true, very true. So I don't know.
But I agree with you though.
I you get in this situation, especially like if you look at things like Zelda or Metroid, where they've just utterly fucked up their timetable to the point where you're like, okay, when does apparently this shit all does take place in the same universe, but like, what the fuck? Where is Wind Waker in relationship to Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link? Like you've got 20 years worth of continuity that nobody is bothering to keep a handle on. Yeah. So if you've got to do that stuff, like with, I don't want to get up on my Metal Gear high horse or anything. Well, actually, that's not true. I love getting up on my Metal Gear high horse. But, when you have somebody like Hideo Kojima who's been running the same franchise for a long time, and you don't have that franchise changing studio hands or being made by separate people, then I feel like you tend to get a more complete or just a better overall structure to your timeline, because you've got this one crazy person handling the entire thing instead of, like, oh, well, we feel like there was time to explore Samus before she was a badass, so we're going to do all this stuff, and it's going to fuck your character all up. And that's the other thing is prequels, the Star Wars taught us anything. It's that you could fuck up a story real hard with a prequel.
And that's the thing. It really comes down to the story. If you got a good story and it makes sense and it needs to be there, okay. But if you're just doing it because you want some name recognition to your completely has nothing to do with it, but we just wanted to cram it in their story, then I don't know, man. Just go with the new IP. Don't confuse everything.
Yeah.
It's just, prequels, if it makes sense, okay, but I'm with you. I don't really care for them very often. There's in movies or games, there's really not a lot to it that I want to start over anyway. I've been progressing. I want to get to the end of whatever it is. I don't want to suddenly start, with young Conan again. Tell me how Conan dies. Damn it. Schwarzenegger's still alive. Put him in that damn metal bikini bottom and have him run around with his old ass.
Well, that was also one of the things about Metal Gear's prequel stuff that I enjoyed, was the fact that when you went back and they made the prequel stories for Metal Gear, it wasn't young Solid Snake. It was another character who turns up as an old guy later on in the franchise. So you weren't continually painting yourself further and further into a corner, you go back and you can do stories that have to do with other characters that show up as older later. And that's even in the new Metal Gear that's coming out, Metal Gear 5. You've got, Revolver Ocelot as kind of an older guy, and you've got people showing up as they're aging and they're getting older. And I don't know, it can be, like, to be honest, it can be an incredibly effective thing if you've got somebody who can flesh out a whole time frame. It's one of the things I try to tell people all the time about. They're like, oh, Metal Gear, it's so long-winded and it's so obtuse and it's been going on for so long. And I understand all that stuff. But on the other hand, it's the only franchise that I can think about that has had a story that they've been kind of keeping to. I mean, they do some retconning here and they do some retconning there and some side stories or whatever. But, there's a story, there's a narrative there that went on for like 20 years of games. That's fucking insane, man. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, it's true. Maybe they could make a Madden football and have a young John Madden where he's not fat and eating buckets of chicken. I don't know.
Madden 1. Go back to Madden 1. Oh, man. All right, well, let's go. We got a couple more here. This next one is from Sergey, I believe. Sergey starts out by saying, insert ass-kissing comment here, so I'm just going to do it for him. You guys are the best, and I love you so much. That's as much as I can come up with. All right, with the new console, oh god, we're getting a lot of this stuff today, but with the new console generation using the x86 architecture, what are your opinions on console-exclusive games like Halo or Kingdom Hearts being released on the PC as well to increase sales? We all know that PC sales are slow burners, but studios still get a good profit from sales, and with games being created on PCs anyway, how hard would it really be to release them on a neutral system like the PC? I've never said the word PC as much as I have in this one email. I understand that some games are made for controllers, but you can use any USB controller in a PC without a problem. What are your thoughts? Sincerely yours, Sergey. So this is, I don't know. I mean, I think that if anything we've seen from the current, from this year's E3, we've seen that this generation is it's not going to necessarily be about how many consoles a game is on. It's going to be how many consoles it's not on. That because all this stuff is so similar that we're staring down the barrel of more of this paid exclusive stuff where, Microsoft shells out the money to keep the DLC on their platform for a year, so that if you really want to play it, you have to go over and do it there. And that, that Sony's would pay to keep Kingdom Hearts on the PlayStation 4, even though I don't even think that's an exclusive. I remember reading a story where they said that like this is not going to be completely exclusive, but I honestly think that you're probably going to see some of this stuff make a crossover, but it's probably going to be more third party, and most of this first party or system selling kind of junk. Like, I doubt the next Halo game is going to just we're putting it on the PC as well, even though that would be awesome. I mean, what, Gears 1 and 2 were the only two that were on the PC? Is that right? Would they put out Gears 3 on the PC? I don't think they ever did they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the third one. I'm going to kind of derail the email a little bit. I got a feeling these consoles aren't going to sell very well.
You think?
I don't think people are really ready to leave their existing systems. I don't think they're going to want to throw the money down for slight graphical upgrades. And not a lot of, the launch titles, they could be good, but probably they won't be. And they'll be pretty limited. And I just don't think people are going to want to spend the $500, $600 to get the games and the controllers and everything. I think they're going to wait until the libraries build up, because I just don't think the gameplay experiences on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 are bad. If you go back and play PlayStation 2 or PlayStation or one of the other consoles, that the experiences were lacking. But I don't think they're lacking right now. I think that they're pretty decent, and I think that there's a lot of games most people haven't got around to playing. And I think they would feel better just going out and, continuing on with their existing system.
Well, don't you think that it's going to be a lot like, this is one of those things we get into, because this particular cycle of consoles has been so goddamn long that we tend to, I would agree with you in a way where I think that I think the initial sales are going to be your early adopters, and they're going to be, there's probably going to be some Black Friday stuff in there. You're probably going to have holiday sales, which is going to be good for people, but that we're staring down the barrel of the same thing that we saw with the last generation of consoles, which was that people were slow. There was plenty of people that went out there and immediately bought a new Xbox, or people like dumbasses like me who went out and bought a PlayStation 3 as their first next-gen console, even though I didn't have an HD TV to play it on. So I spent the first year of my PlayStation career with an SD television, and then another 6 months with just a Blu-ray player. But that it's going to take a good 2 or 3 years to transition.
Yeah, see, I do think that, but look, I mean, a lot of people originally bought the PlayStation 3 in the value of also getting a Blu-ray player because they justified it in their heads that, you know, it was worth to get both. And you know, but I think that the difference here is that the graphical update is not as significant. It really, look, Call of Duty, I think the next one is coming out on both the current systems and the next generation systems. It's not next generation only. It's also coming out on the old systems. And that's the kind of thing that's going to make it so people don't upgrade. Because, you know, sure, it looks a little bit better, but the game experience is going to be the same. And I think I just think it's going to hurt them. I mean, obviously, you know, eventually you won't be able to buy a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360, and eventually only the new games will come out on the newer consoles. And if you want to keep gaming, you're going to have to buy one. I get all that, but I just think that I think after the initial hardcore gamers like all of us and the people listening buy their systems, you know, the first couple million, I think it's going to just tank. I think it's just going to be like the Wii U is right now. I just don't think gamers are ready to move over. I don't know. Well, I hope I'm wrong in a way because I like that the industry thrives and is good and everything because, you know, this is kind of what we do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think that they've really made a good case for people to upgrade.
Well, I mean, I think that feel like what we've seen right now is that we're probably going to be looking down more of a that what I'm hoping is that what you're going to see kind of the same thing of that generational shift, like I said, where you're got crossover between them. But I think that what it'll end up being is it's just going to be. It'll be games that are exclusive to the one. I mean, you know, for a couple of years, we're probably going to be living in a world where Assassin's Creed and Halo and Call of Duty and, you know, whatever, the new Splinter Cell or Metal Gear or things like this, we're back into that thing where when the commercial comes up for it and they show the title of the game, how there's like 16 different logos at the bottom, like PS Vita, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation, the 3DS, the Wii U, the PC, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, the Atari Jaguar. You know, it'll be all the shit down at the bottom of your screen, like for each one of these platforms. But that eventually we'll probably just start seeing development move over to those new consoles where you're getting things that you just can't get. And that if they're smart, what they would do is they would keep the stuff with parity for like a year and let people see, you know, one of your friends buys one of these consoles and you go over to see Assassin's Creed 4 and you go, oh, shit, this looks way better on here than it does on mine. And then eventually it's going to be like, well, now here are some games that you just can't get on those old systems.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, that's normally how it works. But at the same time, I don't know. It's a lot of money to be asking to get a graphical update. You know, yeah. I just think that things, you know, there was no hard drive in the PlayStation 2. Yeah, you could buy one, but in the PlayStation 2 there really wasn't one. You know, and we had a lot of features and things added over the years to really, you know, broaden out the appeal of these game systems. And these new ones, they're not doing anything new. There's not. You know, it's a hard drive. It's a Kinect. It's I guess you could play Move. Nobody does, but, you know. But it's really sort of the same experiences. And yeah, okay, they got the button on there that records your video, or you know,
game
Microsoft's
sharing
got
and
the DVR thing for your cable TV and stuff. But I don't think that's really going to pull people in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a harder sell this time around.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, and also another thing that I find real interesting to think about is just the fact that even those consoles, you know, the price point that they're coming to you at, and the fact that like the previous questions were talking about, the same question was talking about bringing things over to the x86 platform on the PC. You know, you're coming to a point now where you would almost be better off just buying an off the rack PC, where you could, you know, you can get a you can, I mean, maybe some people like the experience, but like I have a PC and I have a wired Xbox controller, and like you download stuff on Steam and you plug it in, it's got all the button prompts, works like a charm. You don't have to calibrate anything. It just bam, it works. And if you could get yourself a PC that was as good as, if not better than those consoles for $500, and you were going to be able to play all the games that came out, that you were going to have Steam sales to engage in. You already know how all those used games and stuff worked because the PC has been doing the same thing forever. You don't have to put up with a Kinect. You don't have to put up with these things. It's basically just gonna. That's kind of what I was trying to say before. Is that it's just going to come down to who's got the games that I can't live without. Like where the franchise is, like it's not a stretch of the imagination for you to say, I love Halo. And you know what? I'm going to buy whatever it is that's going to give me the next Halo because I like playing Halo with my friends. So
yeah, I mean, obviously it's got to be more than one game. I mean, you know what I mean? You got to have a value there that there's a built up enough collection to get stuff. And it does take time, and, it is transitional and all that sort of stuff. But I just really think, the big difference this time around than previous generations is just that because television resolutions haven't increased and all that sort of stuff, that I don't think you'll actually look at the game on two different screens and really find it all that it'll be better, but I don't think you'll find that also amazing that you'll want to spend that kind of money to get like an improved game system for quite a while.
Who could say? I mean, you know what? I've made a lot of predictions on the show before that just completely wrong, totally wrong. So
I'm with you.
I can't say for sure. But you know what? That's it. We're done. That was our last question. So hey, everybody, this show can't be done without your questions. So send your questions to mail@rageselect.com. That is mail@rageselect.com. One more time, mail@rageselect.com. But listen to a lot of talk radio recently, so they repeat the same thing over and over and over again. That people remember it. So.
And watch the videos on the website. Help out the guy. He doesn't want to have to go work at a crappy job.
I don't want to have to. Those pretzel burgers are pretty good, but I don't want to have to make them. I don't want to have to be the one who has to make them. So, Kevin, you know what? Thanks for coming by. I think
absolutely anytime.
Yeah,
great fun.
We'll probably have you on a little bit more often these days, but we got plenty of stuff coming up this week. We're probably going to have just as a real side thing. Like I said before, Jason Murphy's out in La La Land this week, so we're probably going to be having some guest folks on. So stay tuned to see who's we're going to bring on this week, and we'll talk to you next time.